Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Introduction to series tutorial for Minecraft. This is CR Gaming, and today we will be continuing our Introduction to Minecraft Redstone tutorial. Today it's all about logic gates. We will be covering the kind of 7 basic logic gates. I have 10 here in front of us, however 3 aren't usually considered basic logic gates as they're just more basic functions of outputting data. So we won't be covering latches or clocks. That will be coming in a later video. So let's get right into it. We'll start off with the 3 that really aren't logic gates, but I'm including in this tutorial just because I think they're a good place to start. So for these examples, I will be using a redstone lamp to determine the output. A redstone lamp being on is a 1 or a true or an on powered condition, and a redstone lamp that is turned off is a false or off or unpowered condition, however you want to think about it. So the first 2 that we'll be talking about here are the true and false gates. And as you can see, and as should be fairly obvious, the true gate or true function will always be true. This redstone lamp will always be lit no matter what I do with my input. And for the purpose of all of these gates and demonstrations, I will be using a lever as my input, as a lever can very easily be manipulated to be on or off. So in this case, you have the true function. It is always true, that lamp is always on, whether or not my input, my lever, is a 1 or a 0, a true or a false, an on or an off. Likewise with the false gate, or really condition, no matter what I do with this lever, the light will always be off, because there's nothing connecting the input to the output here. It is just always off. Next up in the not really gate categories, but some people could include them in gates and I'm just using them, is the input-output. Essentially, the input equals the output, so your input and your output are equal. So when the input is off or 0 or false, the output, likewise, is also 0, off, or false. When it is on, or true, or 1, the output is also a 1, a true, or on. Now we get into the first true logic gate. This is called an inverter, or a NOT gate, or think of it as opposite day. Whatever the input does, the output is the opposite. So as you can see, the input here, the lever is on, but the light is off. When I turn the input lever off, the light turns on. How this works, I think it originally was created as a glitch with Minecraft and they kept it in. I'm not entirely sure. Feel free to correct me. However, what it does is essentially when you place a torch on a block in this configuration, or in this configuration, it does the opposite of whatever the power going into the block reaches. As I mentioned in a previous video, this is also how people originally created redstone repeaters, and if you put 2 of them together, this in real life would be a buffer, which is just 2 inverse gates, so because a negative times a negative makes a positive. This is a very fundamental gate for the rest of what we'll be doing with Minecraft Redstone and logic gates, so if you learn one gate today, learn this one, because this one is the most important and it is the basis for all the other gates, I would say, in terms of the more complicated mechanics and how they work together. Next up, we have the OR gate. This is so called because one input or the other, or both, can turn on the output or give the output a true condition. So we have our 2 input levers here, and as you can see, and it should be fairly obvious, when you turn on one, the lamp will turn on. If I turn on both of them, the lamp is still on, and if this one is the only one on, the lamp is on. The only time it is not on, and the only time the output is 0 is when both A and B are not true. So if either A or B or A and B are powered or turned on or true or 1, then the output will be 1. Lastly, the OR gate can be constructed just by placing redstone in between your two inputs and having it go to the output. Now we start to get into a little bit more complicated by design, but not necessarily in concept, logic gates. This is the AND gate, so-called because it requires both A and B to be powered in order to give the output a condition of 1. So as you can see, both of them are off, or 0, or false, and the output is false. If A is true, the output is still false. If B is true, but A is false, then the output is still false. When A and B are both true, then the output is true. How this is designed is you've got your two inverters here and here, connected by a redstone wire, and then you've got a third inverter right here, which is determined by this block, or rather, this redstone wire right here. So you can see when I turn on A, this torch is unpowered. However, because this torch is powered, this redstone wire is still powered, making this torch still unpowered. Only when A and B are powered do both of these torches turn off due to being inverters, and then because they're connected here, this is now off, allowing this torch to be powered, powering the light. The next two gates, the NOR and the NAND gate, are so called because they have a NOT gate after them, thus the N in NOR and the N in NAND. It's a combination of not or and not and. So this is the NOR gate, and as you can see, it's the same initial construction as an OR gate, and then it just has a NOT gate attached to the end of it. So the NOR gate will do the exact opposite of what the OR gate will do in any situation. So the OR gate, if you remember, it turns on the output, or gives the output a condition of 1, or true, or powered, when either A or B, or A and B, are powered. So this one does the opposite. It only powers the output, or gives it a condition of true, when both A and B are not powered. Because if A or B, or A and B, are powered, then it must be off. I'll demonstrate. So currently, both inputs are turned off, and as you can see, the light is on. When I turn on A, the light turns off. A and B, the light is off, and only B, the light is still off. Similarly to the NOR gate, we have the NAND gate, or the not AND gate, so it does the exact opposite of the AND gate. The AND gate, if you remember, only turned the lamp on when both A and B were both turned on, or had an input condition of 1. So in this case, the NAND gate will only ever turn off when both A and B are turned on. I'll demonstrate here. You can see both A and B are currently turned off, and the light is on. When I turn on A, the light is still on. When I turn on just B, the light is still on. When I turn on A and B, the light turns off. How this is constructed, very similar to the NOR gate, it is simply an AND gate here with an inverter attached to the end of it. Now, you may be noticing here I've got an inverter here and an inverter here, so you'll often see this design simplified by getting rid of these torches here and simply connecting the redstone wire. The last two gates we have here are a lot more complicated in design and function than the previous logic gates we've discussed, so I'm going to spend a significantly longer amount of time on them. They are the XOR gate and the XNOR gate. The XOR gate, or exclusive OR, or sometimes also pronounced XOR gate, is often built in Minecraft with a very compact design such as this. I'm not going to spend too long on that design just yet. I will show it to you more in depth later. However, let's talk about how it works. What an exclusive OR means is that the output will only turn on when A or B, as the inputs, are turned on, but not both and not neither. So, if that didn't make sense, let me show you. A and B are currently both off. The output is off. When I turn on A, the light turns on. When I turn on B, the light is still on. When I turn on A and B, however, the light turns off. A lot of people use this for doors, or another practical real-life example is light switches. You have two light switches that control the same light in your room. A light switch is a real practical, real-world example of an XOR gate in action. So you have two light switches, say, that control a light in the center of the room. One light switch is at the front door, and one light switch is, say, at your bed, or near a back door, or somewhere else, on the opposite side of the room. You walk into a room, the light is off. You want to turn on the light, so what do? You flip a switch. You walk to the other side of the room, you are now leaving the room, or going to bed, and you want to turn off the light, so you flip the other switch, the one that's closest to you, because you don't want to walk all the way back over here to turn off the light. If you have an OR gate, both light switches have to be off in order to turn the light off. And they both have to be down specifically. But in the case of the XOR gate, you can walk into a room, turn on the light, walk across the room, and turn it off. And then you can walk in the room again through the same door and turn it on, although this one's now off. And then you can walk across the room and turn off the light by turning this one off. I think this is an example that a lot of people can relate to, but not a lot of people immediately think of when they think XOR gate. Another common example that you'll see in Minecraft all the time is with a 2x2 piston door setup where you want to be able to shut or open the door from either side. The XOR gate is fantastic for that. I have built a little model of a door here that maybe you want to have at the entrance or the exit of your base to show why people might find this useful. So I want to be able to open the door and close it from either side without relying on buttons and pressure plates and all that annoying stuff, because maybe I'm transporting animals, or I have a long set of piston doors that you can't get through with just one button push. So I open the door with the lever on the outside. Now you can see this one is on and that one is off. I walk through the door, and now how do I shut the door? Well, I pull the lever. But see, now both of them are on. If this was a standard OR gate, the door would still be open. But in this case, the door is closed. Likewise, I can enter the door when they're both on and turn this one off, and the door still opens. And then I can shut it when they're both off. And every time I move a lever, the door will change whether it is open or closed. No matter what lever is in what position, the door will either open or close to the opposite condition of what it was whenever I flip a switch. So what does an XOR gate actually look like? Well, I mean, you kind of saw it. It kind of looks like this monstrosity. This is not a very digestible way of looking at an XOR gate. I personally prefer to expand it into a series of gates that we already understand. So here I have expanded an XOR gate into a series of NAND gates. You remember NAND gates we've talked about just previously. They are the opposite of an AND gate, so they require both inputs to be on in order for the output to be off. But otherwise, they are always on. When you look at it from above, it looks very similar to this. As you can see, I've got both inputs currently on, and the output is off. I recommend pausing the video here and working out the lines for yourself and how they power and unpower. I will be walking through it step by step as well, but this is a good bird's eye view if you want to go through the logic yourself, if you think you understand it, and then you can skip the rest of my explanation once you've got it. Just to prove that it does in fact work the same as the XOR gate demonstrated, well, for your perspective it's that way. But, you know, behind my Minecraft character here, I will show you. So both A and B are on, the output is off. When either B or A are on, but not the other, the light is on. So now demonstrating that A is on, but B is off, and the light is still on. And when both A and B are off, the light is off. So as you can see, it works the same as the XOR gate that I showed behind you. So let's talk about what's happening. Both inputs, A and B, lead into two different logic gates. Both A and B lead into this leftmost gate here, and then they branch off and they lead into this particular torch of this gate, and B leads into this torch of this gate. Now, if you remember from the NAND gates or the AND gates, these torches act as inverters. So whatever this wire is doing, both this torch here on this gate and this torch here on this gate will do the same thing. Likewise, this torch and this torch will do the same thing. Where it gets a bit tricky is what these two torches are doing. So as you can see, this gate here will always be powered, or rather this wire will always be powered unless both A and B are powered. When A is powered, this torch will be off. However, this torch will still be on, causing power to go to both of these torches in the center. If A turns on, this torch should turn off, and this torch will remain off, causing this wire to be off, causing this torch to be on, which powers the whole thing. This line will still be powered, causing this torch to be unpowered, because this line will be unpowered. So here we have A powered, showing exactly what I was talking about. Both this torch and this torch are now unpowered due to this wire powering this torch, and this torch from the unpowered segment of B powering this line, which powers this torch. That, in turn, makes this torch powered because it's an inverter, which allows the light to turn on, and this light to turn on, which is the same. The similar but opposite condition is true when B is powered. It will turn off this torch, and this torch will be off, making this torch turn on. As you can see again, everything I stated is true here. This torch is now the one that is powering these center lines due to A being off and not turning that one off, which causes this torch and this torch to be off. Makes that whole line unpowered, which makes this bottom one on, turning on the lights. When both A and B are turned on, a similar thing that happens as when both A and B are off, but the opposite sides. Now the center ones are unpowered, allowing these center ones to be lit, which is powering both of these lines, which is causing this NAND gate to be false. Because remember, a NAND gate is false when both inputs lead into it are true. This brings us to our more compact XOR gate here. As you can see, the construction makes it look a little bit like an X, with two extra blocks here, redstone dust up here, which acts like a inverse gate for this torch, depending on both of those, redstone wire here, and two more inverters here. It's a bit more complicated in terms of how to think about it and wrap your head around it, which is why I prefer thinking about it with the expanded version. However, This version operates exactly the same, and I do recommend using it for when you are actually constructing it in your Minecraft world, simply because it's more compact, it fits neater into the walls or other objects. Last but not least, we have the XNOR Gate, or the exclusive NOR, or the exclusive not OR gate. You can see where this is going. It's an inverse of the NOR gate. So when either of the levers is turned on, the light turns off. If both of them are on, the light turns on. And if both of them are off, the light is on. In terms of how to build this, if you guessed, build a XOR gate and then add an invert gate or a NOT gate on the end of it, you would be entirely correct. I'm sure there is a more compact way of doing it than this. However, to get an idea of how it's built, this is how I've built it. This is as compact as I've found a way to do it. I'm sure there's another way. I won't go into the in-depth expanded gate solution, but if you really want to, it's just the 4 NAND gates put together with an inverter gate on the end of it, or 3 NAND gates, and then the last gate is just an AND gate. Anyway, that's it for today's introduction to Redstone logic gates tutorial. Next time we'll be covering flip-flops and clocks, and going more in depth on how to use these logic gates along with flip-flops and clocks to create actual computers, traps, and other very complex redstone mechanics. However, it will still be a basic introduction tutorial, as the theme of this series is. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you have any questions or comments on anything I've discussed so far in this introduction tutorial, please shoot me a comment and I'll try to cover it, at least as part of my next topic, if not a topic all entirely on its own.